Well, hello, this is Pastor Russ, and it's time for our Monday mini Bible study. And I'm so glad that you're with me today to study the Bible. We're looking today at Genesis chapter 27, just the first part of this, going a little bit past halfway of chapter 27. I call this Jacob Gets a Blessing. Well, hello, friends. This is Pastor Russ. I'm so glad to be with you today and to lead you through this Bible study as we'll read the first part of chapter 27, and then we will talk about, the meaning of it and some historical things. Now, at this point, Isaac is an old man. Now, the Bible doesn't spend much time on Isaac, which is kind of sad, I think, because Isaac is a very important figure. Of course, he was the son of Abraham. The blessing of God passes from Abraham through Isaac and then from Isaac onto one of his sons. We're going to see today that the blessing of Isaac is going to be passed on not to the eldest son, Esau, but to the younger son, Jacob. And we'll talk about that here in just a minute. Also, I want you to note in today's reading, besides the passing of the blessing, is kind of the trickery that's done, not only by Jacob, who outright lies to his father about who he is, but also his mother Rebekah, because of the two children, Esau and Jacob, remember Jacob means heel grabber, and that's because when he was born, he was the second of the two twins. Esau was first, and he was grabbing onto the heel, at least his hand was near the heel of his older brother Esau, so they named him Jacob, which means heel grabber. And so Rebecca favors her younger son Jacob. Jacob spends more time inside with his mother Rebecca. In today's lingo, we'd probably say he was a mama's boy, whereas Esau was the favorite of his father Isaac because he worked outside. He was a man of the outdoors, and he was rugged, and he didn't have quite the temperament, I think, to be a good leader anyway. But that's beside the point. In today's scripture reading, we're going to read how Rebecca overhears his father talking to his favorite son Esau. And it's not good when we play favorites. It's not going to be a good situation here for any of them. But I guess it is what it is. So let's look at chapter 27 in Genesis as I read, starting with verse 1. When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." "Here I am," he answered. Isaac said, "I am now an old man, and I don't know the day of my death." Now, he doesn't know when he's going to die, but he knows it's going to be soon. "Now then, get your weapons, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Let's stop right here in chapter 4 and talk a little bit about a father's blessing. That's something that we don't have really in our culture as much as they had in their culture. The eldest son, especially the eldest son, was entitled to more than the shares of all the other people. In fact, he was promised a double share of the next in line to get a blessing. So in the case of two children, then the oldest one would be in line to get 2/3 of all the things that the father had, and the younger son, in this case Jacob, would be entitled to 1/3. We see the same thing in the story of the prodigal son in Luke, when the father promises the older boy 2/3 and the younger son 1/3, and the younger son wants his early, so the father gives him his 1/3 and he takes it along, but he saves 2/3 for his older brother. But so we see that same thing happening here. Let's continue on now with verse 5. Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die.'" Now, another thing about this blessing is once it's verbally given, it can't be taken back. So it's just as good as a written contract. It's just as good as something that we would have notarized today. It is legal and it is binding. Continuing on now with verse 8. Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, so I can prepare some tasty food for your father just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you his blessing before he dies. Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, but my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I'm a man with smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing. His mother said to him, my son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me. So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and she put them on her younger son, Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. Boy, she went through a lot of work, didn't she? Just to try to fool Isaac. Then verse 17. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. He went to his father and said, my father? Yes, my son, he answered. Who is it? Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you have told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing. Isaac asked his son, how did you find it so quickly, my son? The Lord your God gave me success, he replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, come nearer so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not. Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy, like those of his brother Esau. So he blessed him. Are you really my son Esau? He asked. I am, he replied. Then he said, my son, bring me some of your game to eat, so that I may give you my blessing. So Jacob brought it to him, and he ate. And then he brought some wine, and he drank. And then his father Isaac said to him, come here, my son, and kiss me. So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of the field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you a heaven's dew and of earth's riches, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. So we're going to end there at verse 29. We have about 16 more verses or so to go, 16 or 17. And of course, then next we're going to have Esau coming in. So you can just imagine what's going to happen here. So I think it's really interesting that in Scripture, many, many times we see the human foibles of people. We see Abraham trying to trick the Pharaoh in Egypt, saying that Sarah, at that time she was called Sarai, it was his sister and not his wife. We see the same thing with Isaac, of saying that Rebekah was his sister, and to Abimelech, the king. And here we have the trickery of Rebekah and Jacob against their own father, Isaac. And so I think this just shows the humanness of this, and I think it shows also the credibility of the Bible. Why, if this was written many, many years after the fact, why would the writers of the Bible put unflattering things in about people unless they were true? And so I think this is exciting. So next week, I hope you join me as we look at part 2 of the book of Genesis, chapter 27. And until then, I hope you have a great and a godly day. And this is Pastor Russ saying so long and God bless. And you know what? If you want to check out some other podcasts of mine, or I'm going to be pretty soon putting up some videos there that you can watch as well, please go to my website, pastorruss.net. It's here on the screen, and you can go there and find lots of interesting things to look at and to read. So until then, have a wonderful day. This is Pastor Russ saying so long.